Baseline Facetime podcast, and we've got another great episode coming at you right now. Let's go. I've got a question for you to start off this episode of the Baseline Facetime podcast. So there are currently three players of the NBA who are averaging at least 27 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, while shooting 50% from the field and 40% from three. There are only 3 players currently in the NBA that are doing that. All right, so take a second, think of who that might be and who that might include, and I'll give it to you here in just a moment. But again, this is the Baseline Facetime podcast. Welcome back. If this is your first episode, welcome to you. This is episode 32, a weekly podcast centered around the NBA and all that comes with that. We give you news, notes, standings, opinions, and things to look forward to in the future around the league, things to keep you up to date with what's going on around the NBA. You can find us on Instagram, Baseline Facetime Podcast. You can find us whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and many more. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for us. That would be very much appreciated just from me and everyone who listens to the Baseline Facetime podcast. Man, we really love the support that we get and couldn't do it without you. So again, my name is Troy. I'm the host of the Baseline Facetime podcast, and welcome aboard. So again, back to that question for you. 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, while shooting 50% from the field, 40% from three. There are only 3 guys in the NBA who are currently doing that. One might be fairly easy to get. The second one might be pretty easy. The third one you might be having trouble with. So I'm going to go ahead and give that to you. So one of those, and maybe the one that's easiest to guess if you're keeping up to date with things going on around the NBA and in the NBA world this year. Number 1 is Kevin Durant, who's putting up at least those numbers so far this year. The second one is another NBA MVP candidate. Alongside with him is Nikola Jokic, who is averaging at least 27, 5, and 5, while shooting 50% from the field and 40% from three. Pretty impressive there from the Joker out in Denver. And then third and last but not least, someone that's kind of flying under the radar just in terms of his production, just simply because of the team that he finds himself on, and certainly has been a part of some trade rumors to this point this year, is Zach LaVine, who is currently averaging 27, 5, and 5, while shooting 50% from the field and 40% from three. Zach LaVine is actually averaging on the season just a little bit over 28 points a game, just over 5 boards, 5 assists. Very impressive numbers from him. As the Bulls are currently sitting at 10-14 on the season. We'll see if Zach LaVine continues to find himself a part of some trade rumors moving forward. All right, so last episode we actually talked a little bit about the Super Bowl, and we are now post-Super Bowl, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so major shout out to them and Tom Brady for being able to get it done. Tom Brady's 7th Super Bowl ring, his first apart from the New England Patriots, down with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his first year down in Florida. So congratulations to them. I think it was 31-9. The Kansas City Chiefs didn't even score a touchdown in that one. I mean, if someone's saying that they predicted that, they're lying to you. I mean, that was so surprising, just the way that they were able to dominate in that game. Pretty remarkable. So whatever you want to call them, whether it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of people are calling them that. A lot of people have been calling it Tampa Bay or Tampa Brady, or the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers, because Rob Gronkowski was able to join Tom down there in Florida. Whatever you want to call them, they got a ring this year, upsetting, at least according to the odds, upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 55. And that actually brings us to an interesting point in a first here on the Baseline Facetime podcast. So way back on September 30th, my brother actually and I were previewing the NBA Finals. Remember back when in the NBA bubble. So September 30th, we had an NBA Finals preview, and my brother actually had a hot take. He had a hot take regarding regarding champions in the world of sports. So his hot take had to do with the Tampa Bay teams, the Tampa Bay major sports teams. And so one was the Tampa Bay Lightning, who had just won the Stanley Cup. The Tampa Bay Rays were deep in the playoffs at this point, or heading that way, poised for a deep playoff run. And then there were the Buccaneers, who had just been starting their season, a couple weeks prior to that. Again, way back on September 30th, my brother's hot take was regarding these Tampa Bay teams. And so I just want to give you a little soundbite way back from that episode in September. Listen to this.
One last hot take.
Oh, boy.
Tampa Bay. Lightning already won. The Rays are the 1 seed in the AL.
Okay.
And the Buccaneers have Tom Brady. So
okay.
do you think all 3 of them can win a chip?
I guess they can.
I mean, we already got one. So I'm kind of cheating. We already got one with the Lightning. Yeah. But,
I wouldn't mind seeing the Rays win it. No one hates Tampa Bay.
Yeah. We'll see.
If the Buccaneers win a ring, there will never be a greater football player. He will go from the greatest football player of all time to the greatest athlete of all time.
I would agree with
in a major sport.
I would agree with that.
I mean,
yep.
Greatest major sport.
Yeah, with the Bucks, I mean, that's just crazy.
At 43 years old.
Yeah,
I think. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's my hot take.
I don't
if it comes true,
getting it done. I really don't. But.
No, probably not. But if it does come true, I'll look like a genius. If it doesn't, nobody can really blame me.
Hey, we'll run this back and we'll post it on Instagram or something with your clip saying that, and we'll give you all the credit. We'll put the date, stamp it on there like J.R. Smith.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay dominating. So certainly a hot take indeed, and we've seen the 2 Tampa Bay teams win a trophy this year, being the Tampa Bay Lightning and now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then in the 2 other sports, the Los Angeles Dodgers were able to beat the Tampa Bay Rays actually in the World Series this year, and we know the Los Angeles Lakers were able to win in the bubble of the NBA Finals to get LeBron his 4th ring. So just something worth noting to remember that flashback. And obviously, I said that Tom Brady may have just gone from the greatest football player of all time to the greatest team sport athlete of all time. And saying it back then, I think I have to stick to it now. And so just an interesting take there. Interesting thing to note in our first ever Baseline FaceTime flashback to a previous episode. So let's get into some news and notes and standings and just what's going on around the league to date as we're now 25, 26, 27 games for some teams into the young season, about a third of the way through, if you will. So we have the Utah Jazz, who are still doing what they've been doing. They are sitting at 20-5, half game up on the Lakers out in the Western Conference. What else can be said? They're playing really, really good ball out there. Something else worth noting in the Western Conference is the standings are just so log jammed out there, and they're a little jammed out in the East. But we'll talk about the West right now. So seeds 6 through 14 in the Western Conference. Seeds 6 through 14 as it stands to date on February 12th. Recording here on Friday, February 12th, 2021. We've got the San Antonio Spurs sitting at the 6th seed at 14-11, currently the 6th best record in the Western Conference. And then you've got the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are 10-14, and they are sitting at 14th in the Western Conference. So only 3.5 games separate those teams out west, and it's going to be another interesting run, even as I'm excited, really, just as we get closer to the playoff time and to see how that's going to play out. Kind of similar to how it was last year in the NBA bubble. We remember, there was 13 teams, I believe, that went to the bubble in the Western Conference, and the Phoenix Suns, if you remember, they actually won 8 straight games in the bubble. They didn't lose in the bubble and weren't able to make the playoffs even then. But just a crazy scene going on in the West, and I hope it stays the same. Would be very, very intrigued to see this playoff push. You got teams like the Denver Nuggets, actually. The Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors, who are currently the 7th and 8th seed in the West. You got the Sacramento Kings right behind them, Memphis Grizzlies with John Morant, the Dallas Mavericks, a little bit of a surprise, are only sitting at 12 and 14, but they're only 2.5 games back of the 6th seed in the West. And then you've got the Pelicans, the Rockets, and the Thunder right now, just a game separating those three teams. So a crazy scene going on out west. And then, of course, you got the Minnesota Timberwolves holding it down at 6 and 19, pretty much out of the playoff picture out there unless they were to turn things around really quickly. So just something to know, something to take note of. And it's looking like it's going to be a crazy push yet again in the Western Conference to see who can get those 6, 7, 8 seeds out there. In the Eastern Conference, we see the Philadelphia 76ers with a current 1.5 game lead on the Milwaukee Bucks, followed by the Brooklyn Nets sitting at 3.5 back of first, and then a little bit of a jam there between the Celtics all the way down to the Hawks at the 8 seed, just 2 games separating 4 through 8 out there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the East will play out. Can the Sixers hold on to that number 1 spot where they currently sit? They have yet to play the Milwaukee Bucks. Should be some pretty good basketball being played. Really intrigued to see how that matchup would play out out there. Another note on the Philadelphia 76ers, they were either, I think, 14-0 when they played their regular starting lineup this year. That is no more. The Sixers lost their first game with their regular starters last night, Thursday the 11th, to the Portland Trailblazers, who actually beat them in Philly a week ago. And then Philly heads to Oregon, and they lost that one as well. A very, very good game. We're into that actually a little bit more. But the Sixers starters of Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid are now, again, either 14-1 or 15-1 on the season. Coming up on Saturday, the 13th, the Brooklyn Nets are traveling to California to face Steph Curry and the Warriors. So Durant and his newly formed Big Three are going to visit the Warriors for the first time since Durant's departure from them. Obviously, KD sat out last season. KD's having a tremendous season so far this year, and we'll see if he can keep it up. We'll see how it plays out in with the Warriors. So Steph Curry is having a tremendous year this year as well. I think he hit like 8 threes in a game last night on Thursday. Currently averaging about 30 points a game. He's just having a great year. And you got to feel happy for the guy. We'll see. Again, they're part of that mess in the Western Conference right now, so we'll see how that plays out throughout the season. The Miami Heat have turned it around a bit this season. They're currently winners of 4 in a row, sitting at 11-14, which means they were 7-14 at one point, which is not pretty for the Eastern Conference defending champion Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler impressed last night with a triple-double in a win over the Houston Rockets. Not sure where that game was played. I think it was in Houston. Could be wrong. But let's talk about this Eastern Conference logjam. Again, we already kind of talked about it in the West, but let's focus on the Eastern Conference right now for a second. So after those top 3 teams, the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Nets, who look to be battling for 1, 2, and 3. You got the Celtics in the conversation as well. But then you've got teams like the Pacers, the Raptors, the Hornets, the Hawks, the Heat, the Knicks, the Bulls, the Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers will stop right there. Only 3 games separate the numbers 5 through 13 in the Eastern Conference. So you got the Indiana Pacers sitting at 13-13. You got the Cleveland Cavaliers sitting at 10-16. Again, only 3 games back of that 5 spot. The Cavaliers are only 2 games back of the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. So something to watch for there. Man, I hope these stats stay the same. These standings stay the same. Would be very, very interesting to see how it plays out and see who can get in the playoffs. Right now, if the playoffs were to start today, we would have the Charlotte Hornets and the Atlanta Hawks at the 7 and 8 seed in the Eastern Conference, with the defending Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat would be missing the playoffs if the playoffs were to start today. So again, a logjam in the Eastern Conference too. Get your popcorn ready. I mean, we're heading close to even the All-Star break here soon, and there's going to be maybe some pushes made from some of those teams like the Miami Heat, who are currently sitting outside of the playoffs. Again, winners of 4 straight, so keep an eye on them. All right, our last segment on the show today, our Baseline Baller of the Week award, a weekly award given to just someone that I take note of, someone that had a good week, and not necessarily Eastern Conference, Western Conference Player of the Week, though it could be, but just someone to take note of, and that is none other than Carmelo Anthony. So Carmelo Anthony, in 4 of his last 5 games, so over this past week, 4 of his last 5 games, he's been over 20 points, which is a big deal for Carmelo. He had a season high of 24 on Thursday night against the Sixers, again in that win out in Portland. He had 16 in the fourth quarter, and this game was tight. This game was close. I believe it was a 4-point game heading to the fourth. A Western Conference late night road game for the 76ers out in Portland, and of course I had to stay up and watch, and to watch Melo drop 16 in the fourth and really seal the deal, because Dame had a hot start. If you weren't able to catch that game, let me give you just a little summary. Dame had a hot start out the gate. Gary Trent played well early on, and then he kind of cooled off, the both of them. And here comes Carmelo in the fourth quarter. He hit 3 threes in a row, I believe, on 3 straight possessions. He had a crazy mid-range shot that banked in as the shot clock expired that he kind of just threw up. Made a couple other shots, and then in a tie game, so let's see, there's 20 seconds left. Seth Curry just made a 3 to tie it with the Trailblazers, and there's about 20 seconds left, tie game, shot clock turned off. You know who this ball's going to. It's going to Dame Lillard, Dame time, and he gets the ball. Ben Simmons on him, of course, and some pretty good defense being played. It dribbles down to about 7, 8 seconds left, and Ben Simmons chooses to foul Damian Lillard as they had a foul to give. And so for a sideline out of bounds, a couple timeouts are called. They're drawing up something, looking to get Damian Lillard the ball. Tobias Harris is guarding the inbounder, Simmons on Lillard, and they weren't able to get it into him because of just playing a denial. Carmelo gets it in to somebody, and then Carmelo gets it back, gets fouled. He gets fouled. He goes to the line with 3 seconds left, knocks down both. Portland Trailblazers have a 2-point lead. Real quickly, down at the other end, Sixers call timeout, get it at the other end of court. You got to think they're going to try and go to Embiid. Maybe they try and hit Seth Curry for a 3. He just hit one previously. Maybe they go to Tobias, who has had a clutch gene so far this season. And what do? They do none of the above. They don't even get the ball in bounds. Great denial by Portland. Got to give them credit. Not sure exactly what Doc had drawn up, but it certainly wasn't a turnover. Robert Covington was able to come through, poke the ball out, and get the victory for the Portland Trailblazers. So shout out, again, Carmelo Anthony, our Baseline Baller of the Week. You just got to love it, man. You got to love seeing Carmelo do his thing. 20 points in 4 of the last 5 games is a pretty big deal. And so shout out to Carmelo for that. Anyway, that's all that we have today on the Baseline FaceTime podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, I hope you hit that subscribe button for us and tune in for some more episodes, a weekly NBA podcast, talking hoops, and even some NFL talk, even as you see today. So again, follow us on Baseline FaceTime podcast. Follow us there on Instagram, and look forward to hearing even your questions. Baseline FaceTime podcast at gmail.com. If you want to submit anything, you can do that for us as well. All right. Peace. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Baseline FaceTime podcast. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.